Hello, Avery. It's nice to see you this evening. Hello,
Hello.
everyone. Um, we're going to begin by just going around our circle, our screen. Bill, can you set the screen order? I don't know if that's necessary, but I think it's different for different people. And I'm going to tell you that my name is Cassie Kamen. I'm part of the Lake Erie Yearly Meeting Advancement and Outreach Committee, which is putting this together tonight. And I am going to tell you that I've been doing spiritual companioning for 3.5 years now, since we first were introduced to it. That's, I think I might be wrong about that number. Numbers and I are pretty are pretty sketchy, but it's been a lovely long time. And so I'd like you to go to tell us your name and meeting and how much experience you've had with spiritual companioning. And I'll pass it to Raylin.
Hi, I from Kalamazoo Friends meeting. I actually not sure. Um, I silenced my phone. Um, whether spiritual companioning is the same or how similar it is to spiritual friendship. I started a spiritual friendship with someone in my meeting, and um, we're still finding out how to do it. I'm not sure. Yeah. So I came to this one to find out more, and there was a little confusion because we thought that this had something to do with people on traveling ministry having a companion.
Ah.
So we were a little, I was confused about whether that was right for me or not. And then I read that this is about, it's from you, Cassie. I read the stuff that you you had offered about it. And then I said, yeah, that's what I need.
Good, good. I'm glad that I'm glad that it answered the question.
Mhm.
Okay, Avery, your name and your meeting and how much exposure you've had to spiritual companioning.
Oh, wow. So my name is Avery Enigenberg. I'm at the Ann Arbor Friends meeting, and I have exactly zero experience with spiritual companioning, but I'm hoping to learn more.
Thanks. Jack, go ahead.
Uh, Evening, Jack Smith, Red Cedar Meeting in Lansing. Um, I've benefited from many conversations with Joanne Newroth about this topic, and she is quite evangelistic about the virtues of spiritual companioning. And as yet, I have not answered the call. The one thing I thought about was, and perhaps other friends may share this, I feel like my wife is a spiritual companion. She is a member of our meeting, and we share a lot about where our energies may be well placed. Um, and I get spiritual feedback from my wife on a regular basis. But in terms of convening a group and meeting with them regularly, I have not.
Thanks, Jack. Dennis?
Dennis Grigg, Ann Arbor meeting. So I have not ever done this particular thing. I've had spiritual friendships, still have come and go at various intensities, but and most of you know we do this thing on first and third Wednesdays, which is not the same, but uh, the notion of talking to people and sharing what's going on in our spiritual lives is part of what happens there as well. So I'm interested in this particular process.
Thanks. Joanne.
Hello, I'm Joanne, the ineffective evangelist for this process. Um, I too, I'm from Red Cedar in Lansing, and I too have been doing it since the spiritual formation retreat one year when Nadine Hoover came to Lake Erie and taught it to us all. I think it must have been the first year of COVID because it was all online for sure. So that's, 5 years ago probably. And yeah,
It
I've
might
been
even
doing it
be
since then.
7 years, 6 years, 6 or 7. Anyway, yeah. Sorry. Okay, Bill.
Bill Warders here at Birmingham Friends meeting in the Detroit area. And I have not participated in spiritual companioning. I am familiar with intellectually what it's about. And I've participated over the years in co-counseling or other sort of paired attention sharing experiences. So I have some sense of that.
Thanks. Barbara.
Barbara Lesage. I attend in North Columbus Friends meeting in Columbus, Ohio. And I too began in the fall of 2020 when Nadine came to Lake Erie yearly meeting and shared it with Joanne, Cassie, and I were all part of that spiritual formation program that year. So it's been 5.5 years. And I'm a numbers person, so.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. I can count to 5. All right. So welcome everyone. And I think I share with both Joanne and Barbara such an affection for this process that we've been at it now for 5.5 years. And I'm also a member of 3 different companion groups, and I find it gives me an opportunity to just land regularly. Weekly, I have a companion group, and occasionally 2. And it's a time that I set aside for just asking how is spirit alive for me in my life at that time. And it deepens as I go along. As weeks go by, I find it more and more valuable and useful to just have set aside a bit of time for that. My role at this moment is to tell you that a little of the history that when George Fox was getting started in England back in the mid 1600s, he started to collect people who were all had decided that they didn't need the Pope or a priest to tell them what they should be doing and how they should be connecting to God, that they could actually and were experiencing the connection to divine love in their lives regularly. So the first structure for Quakerism was to set aside time for worship. And the first structure was meeting for worship, where people would stop and listen and discern how spirit was guiding their lives, how God or loving conscious or whatever we choose to call it. How is that alive for us, and how is it guiding us today, this minute, this hour, this week? So the way this is different from some of the other practices of friendship is that we that it puts spirit first. And um, the second structure of Quakerism after the meeting for worship was companioning. That as people went out into the world to talk about this way of being, they always went in twos or threes. So that, Raylin, you're right, that the history of companioning had to do with going out in ministry together, and supporting each other in not being alone, but traveling together, talking together, worshiping together, and sharing that in community. This practice, Nadine and many people over the hundreds of years have figured out different ways of doing this work. It all has to do with tuning in to ourselves and sharing it with others who will be helping us discern whether what we're the process is for someone else to talk about. But the practice is old and has been with Quakers for many hundreds of years. I think that the most important piece for me to want to say is that it all has to do with our own commitment to discerning how we're led in the world, and then having somewhere regular where someone will listen to what's alive for us in that moment, and that we have that companionship, that regular practice in our lives. I'm going to pass it on to Joanne. To Barbara. Sorry.
Barbara and I are going to share the next section. So generally, I'd say it's a pretty simple practice. And you should think of it just as a spiritual practice. But it has some structures that help us stay on task, help us not just ramble, but use our time really effectively. So I'll start and then you jump in, Barbara, with other parts of the structure so generally it's 2 to 4 people who decide to do this practice because they want to experiment with coming close to the presence of God and with spirit in our lives. And so they meet, these people set up a time to meet every 2 or 3 weeks, 1 or 2 or 3, I guess, mostly 2 in my experience. And they set aside maybe 20 or 30 minutes for each person. So if there are 4 people, a couple hours, and then they divide that time up evenly and take turns being a speaker and doing this practice while the others witness and observe and are companions to the speaker. And we'll talk later about what you do when it's your turn and you're the speaker and what is your turn, what you do when you're the listener. But those are the basic parameters. Barbara, what would you add to that?
I mean, I think that gives the overall gist in that it's a pretty simple structure, but it's very spiritual and it's very deepening and it's like a sacred container and space. And so there's nuances and subtleties that are challenging to describe because it has that power of transformation and expanding our insight and our connection to spirit and how we're being led. And so it's, we can talk about the structure and the process, but then there's these nuances that are harder to describe. So that's why it's important and why we built in the opportunity to practice because it's very experiential. Um, and one has to kind of, yeah, live it and feel it. It's not just something you can describe. You have to experience it.
So for me, that intangible part, the thing that separates it from other spiritual practices for me is that instead of spending the time, which is mine in the session, telling my spiritual journey or explaining my questions to the other people or exploring ideas and questions we have about our faith practice. This is an unusual opportunity for the speaker, the person whose turn it is, to actually do their work with spirit, not not interact with the companions, but actually connect with and do your work with spirit while being witnessed by your companions. That's the unique thing about it. And people do that with more or less regularity. Like sometimes you just want to tell a story, and if that's what you and spirit decide to do, you can do that. But that's not really capturing the power of this practice. The power comes when I take advantage of the chance to stop with all my plans and ideas and intentions and stories and whatever, and just sink down into the presence of spirit and then speak out of that presence and let other people witness. That's the heart of what is different about this practice for me.
And then I would say also experientially as the witness to the speaker, I am then also speaking from a very open space where what I'm doing in witnessing is receiving whatever the person is sharing and taking myself out of it. I'm holding that sacred container so that when I reflect back to the speaker, I'm holding as much of what they've said without any of myself being intertwined in it or my own analysis, my own interpretation. So I am, that's kind of what deep listening in this type of practice is I'm not a part of it. Me individually, Barbara is not a part. I'm receiving and holding whatever it is the speaker has to share. And it's not just their words, but also holding what can I sense and feel, not just what sometimes you can feel things.
Or see things,
Yeah,
observe.
mhm.
And I will tell you that part of what's powerful about this for me is that the companions do that. They listen deeply and reflect back to me. And it's sort of like, you know how when you give vocal ministry in meetings sometimes, and you sit back down and you have no idea what you said because you were in the presence of spirit. Well, in this case, you've got companions who will, in fact, reflect back to you what they heard. So it's really powerful for someone to have listened well enough to say, I saw you light up when you got to this part, or I heard about that, or it's a mirror with more feedback than we usually get when we are working with spirit and worship. That's probably enough for a general description, don't you think? Did it leave you with questions? Or shall we keep going on toward
I,
practice?
I want to say one more thing.
Mhm.
I spoke to Nadine today about several things, but including this. And she said the one thing about it is ask people, remind people that they don't have to make sense. If what you do, if what you're feeling when you start connecting to spirit is crying, you can cry. Or if what you're feeling is to get up and stomp around the room, you can get up and stomp around the room. Or if what you're feeling is something else, it's all right. You're just, it's your time to speak whatever spirit is moving through you, and you don't have to explain the whole story to your companions. You can just allow that time to be there for whatever spirit needs to do through you.
So Cassie's got us started with what the next section is going to be. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to be a good speaker and how to be a good companion listener. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms and actually try it and just practice, because that's how trying it and seeing what comes up for you for questions is the best way to learn it, we think. So during a session of companioning, you will have divided up the time evenly. And let's say I get 15 or 20 minutes for my turn. While I'm the speaker, what it means to be a good speaker in spiritual companioning terms is first you do what Cassie was just talking about. You set aside, you stop, you lay down all of your intentions, your hopes that you will be profound, your expectation of yourself that you will make sense, that you will look like a good Quaker, that you will be good at this, like just let all of that go. And instead, sink down into that place, wherever it is you picture it being, where you are in connection with spirit, where you open yourself to your inner guide, to the spirit, and ask yourself what spirit has for you today. And I have come to a thing where I have a chant. I actually have a recording of a chant that says I dwell within what is. So I let go of everything that I want to be and instead just settle in what is and let spirit be with me for maybe half of my 20 minutes, Um, and when I feel something working in me, where spirit and I are not just me thinking or me intending or me doing something, but it's spirit and I are working, I I I choose, I mean, I can choose to just stay silent for my whole 20 minutes if I want to, but more likely, I start voicing that. I start saying, what's coming to me is something like this. I'm feeling puzzled about da 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 da. And I've let go of trying to make it make sense. I don't explain it to you all. I just plunge into the middle of whatever spirit and I are doing. And it's kind of astonishing how little explanation you really have to do. If you and spirit are working, then people can just witness and see it and be present with it. We'll talk about what they're doing in a minute, but so I'm not going to explain it to you. I'm just going to be working with spirit and letting you hear and see the impulses that come to me, or feel the emotions that come to me, or give voice to whatever spirit and I are doing on this learning edge of our relationship. And then maybe I already said had used up half my time, but maybe if I didn't, half or two-thirds of the way through, I'll wind myself down and say, I think that's clear. I'm clear. So I'd like to invite my listeners to reflect what they heard. Now, you don't have to do that, but if you want to, I find it one of the really exciting parts of this, to hear what caring, loving companions saw happening while I was working with spirit is a really precious and valuable thing. Um, uh, Cassie or Barbara, can you think of any other tips for how to be a speaker? Don't explain, just do, just be with spirit and let it flow is my basic thing.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I think you already said this, but just in my own words is when Joanne was saying sometimes you want it to be profound, or I want it to be spiritual, and sometimes I am in such a troubled place or an emotional place that I'm really having a hard time connecting to spirit. If there's anger or sadness or distress, I'm not feeling very spiritual, and that's where I am. And sometimes I just need to speak that to clear out space so that once I discharge that, then I can settle more. And sometimes that'll happen in a session and sometimes it won't. Sometimes that's the best I can do. So I just want to put that out there to not hold yourself to like, oh, everything has to be zen and deep and insightful, but it's really showing up where we are and doing our best to authentically express what is honestly going on inside of us in that moment.
Thank you. That's really important because it being authentically where we are with what is where God can meet us. Otherwise, we're pretending. So while I'm doing that during my time, the others in my group, my companions, are working to be good listeners, good companions. And what that means for me is that when somebody else is working with spirit, I do my best, as Barbara started to say earlier, I think, to just let myself be open and to hear and to be totally curious, to be very interested, to turn my attention to this person in spirit and to stay calm and centered and non-anxious and to trust that this person in spirit have all they need. They don't need me to do anything. What I'm going to do is just hold them and appreciate them and follow them as if what they were telling me is absolutely true. I don't critique it. I don't analyze it. I don't decide whether I agree with it. I just trust them in spirit and hold them in the light while they are doing their work in curiosity and hope for them. And knowing that their work absolutely will not be mine. It it may or may not make sense to them the last time I heard them. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to listen and I am going to hold them in hope and expectation with curiosity. Remember that they are good and that spirit is good and that spirit's capable and that spirit and they will be taking themselves wherever they need to go. Then, if asked, one more thing that Cassie, and then you can add. If asked at the end by the speaker to reflect back, I try to use their words as much as possible. I try to say not my own judgment about them or my own understanding or analysis. I certainly don't try to add value. I tell them what I heard from them. I tell them what I saw in their face and body while they were speaking. And if I have a strong sense of it and they ask for feedback as well as reflection, I can tell them, when you were speaking about this, I had a sense of the life and breath of spirit working through you while you were doing this part more than that part. So I give them feedback about that. That's the only kind of feedback I give them, not you were making sense or I think you're on the right track or, none of that. Okay, Cass, you want to add something?
Yeah. Nadine even said it stronger. She said she said what you just said. The only feedback she gives is whether she felt the life of spirit alive in that part of what you said, or that's the only thing that felt a little weird at first to be even saying that out loud, but that is sometimes it feels that way. So you're allowed to say it here. And if you don't, that's okay. That just doesn't mean spirit wasn't there. It just means you didn't feel it. So that one, and also a big mistake that people make in this practice is that you have to be very close and dear friends in order to do it with each other, which is simply not true. It's a powerful practice. And I think that one of the fun things about something like this is you're companioning with somebody that you have never hopefully companioned with before, and that it works. It just works. So trust that as we go through this.
So we propose to take the next, I didn't add it all up, but I think it'll be, 10 minutes or so. and actually just do a practice. So I would open breakout rooms. Bill, it wants to know if the co-hosts want to join the breakout rooms. Would you like to join a room?
I'll go in the room.
Okay, so I will too, and that'll make 4 breakout rooms for the 8 of us. 6, 7, 8, yep. And when I open it, let's see, let's figure out how long this should go. We're going to go into pairs. Each one of us should take 3 minutes apiece. So that would be 6 minutes and another 2 for slush to get started and stuff. Let's say it's going to take 8 minutes. And then we'll come back and talk about what happened.
This time just speaking, no reflecting, right?
Right. So we're going to take turns speaking. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Huh. I did talk about reflecting. We weren't going to do that till the second practice. Oops. Oh, well. So we're going to, there we are with what is. So just 3 minutes on one side, and then I will try to send you a reminder at about 4 minutes, which would be 3 and a, getting started minute. And then switch speakers, and the other can practice speaking while you listen. Questions? Jack.
This isn't really a question. Well, I guess it is. And I don't want to slow down. I'm ready to try it out, and it doesn't have to deal with it now. But the question that came to me was, the 3 of you have been working together for some time, and I want to hear you all speak about how the process has developed, how you have developed in the process. I can't believe that you started in the place where you are now. So I want to hear you reflect back over
Sure.
how it moved over time.
Hopefully we'll have 15 or
Time
20
to do
minutes
that.
at the end to really go into that kind of thing.
But it just, you remind me that if I'd make it random, we might put the 3 of us together, and that would be a bad idea. I'd like us spread out. It'll take more time to assign manually, so let's just go random, and we'll hope we don't get all of us who know who companion already.
Well, it's only 2 to a room.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Take 3 minutes, switch speakers, 3 minutes, and then I'll tell you when the rooms are going to close.
Joanne, did
I'm
you?
sorry. I need to take a quick break.
Okay.
Be right back.
Oh, here, I can see who the rooms are.
Joanne,
Okay.
we also had a potential prompt. Did you want to use it or not?
Oh, of course. I just forgot it. Okay, just a minute. Why don't I have my breakout rooms anymore?
While you're doing that, why don't we tell about the prompt? Barbara, do you have it right there?
Yeah, what is it about worship that keeps you coming back?
That helps to have a little bit of a thing to
My
speak.
breakout rooms have disappeared, friends. I don't know what to do about this. Bill, I assured you I knew what I was doing, but I don't seem to be.
You're having a digital experience, Joanne.
Yeah, really.
Ride with it.
There it is. I found it. Okay. So I'm going to move. I'm going to include the co-hosts and recreate, and it did not include me as co-host. So, Bill, I'd like you to join room 3, and I'm going to join room 4. Okay?
Okay.
As I recall, we are just giving ourselves a few minutes. What would you like to say about what you just did that you just like to share with everyone? How was that for you?
It relieved me of a worry. My worry was that I would never be able to get beyond talking about things that I do or think about doing. And being given a prompt that took me to a place that I love made it easier for me to enter that space. But I don't know how well I would do if I didn't have a prompt like that inspired me.
Thank you, Jack.
Just let me jump in like I'm not supposed to here and say you've probably previewed that other question you had about how we've changed over the years, because I think we've gotten more relaxed about doing it without a prompt or without a direction to ourselves, but just like letting happen what could happen. But it does take a while to trust that spirit and you will come up with something.
And there's a little list of prompts that Nadine put in her book, and we could share with you that help you get started.
Well, I started out without a prompt. I did not hear the prompt. So
Oh,
I sat and thought. I was told I didn't have to say anything because I didn't know what to say about anything yet. But I thought I needed to be honest. That was important. Not to say something I didn't feel or think. And then I heard there was a prompt. And then I started. Yes, that would have been very fruitful to talk about that and to hear. And then I heard my companion talking about it. There's a lot more there that I wanted to pursue. So how is that different from a conversation? I thought that the process of this is similar, although I was anxious about this. I was a little nervous about what I was supposed to do. Is a lot like worship sharing, how I feel when I engage in worship sharing, except I'm doing it with more people than
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
Sure. That's insightful, Raylin, because it's the same space we go to. We go inside, I think. Any other thoughts or responses to just speaking into the companion?
I had a little trouble knowing what to do with my eyes. I was looking, the way the screen popped up for me is I was sort of eye level with myself, and Cassie was up higher. And so I was sort of like, do I care to see what my companion's face is doing, or do I want to look at how I look? So I think in person that would be solved, but in Zoom, I have to figure that out.
Yeah. I have done companioning in person and it's lovely. But just because of the time, it started in COVID and Barbara's one of my companions and Joanne's one of my companions, and they're both in different, they're miles away. So we companion on Zoom and it's gotten very comfortable. Okay, can we move on?
I was just gonna um, share something about the experience that continues to surprise me, but not surprise me, which is how profoundly I can be moved by listening to my companion, how much that can shift or open up in myself. Like their deep sharing is like, oh yeah, no, yeah, wow. So it's almost like fireworks going off or something that it kind of becomes expansive. So that was just a powerful reminder to me, the power of even listening to someone else's experience.
I missed being able to respond this one, and and I was responding. I felt response in me, especially when being deeply moved was mentioned, and that sense of sharing that deep connectedness. I was more aware, I think, than if I had been able to say something, to feel the shared feeling of it.
So we have still planned to do a second round of practice in which we moved beyond just speaking and listening and practice doing this reflecting back. And I sort of got off script and explained that to you before the first one. So let's let Barbara start over and give us a little bit of information about how we do listening and reflecting feedback.
Yeah, so this first practice we just did is a little bit unnatural because we didn't include the reflecting piece, and this time we will add the reflection back in, add the reflection in as something to practice. And as you know, Joanne said about the as the speaker not being anxious about needing to make sense to your speaker, as the listener remaining non-anxious because you're not there being tested on, okay, can I remember everything they said? Because I've got to tell them back because that's my job. It's really not about capturing everything. And that's what's nice about in this next practice, we'll go into groups of three. So there will be two listeners for one speaker. And what's nice is sometimes certain things you'll capture or feel and reflect back, and your other the other listener can capture some of the other things too. So you don't need to feel I've got to capture everything and I've got to say it back. Okay, first you said this and then this and then this, because it's not a test. It's an offering back of well, here's what I retained. Here's what I can offer you back. And again, as Joanne said, it's about trying to use their words as much as possible. Um, and sometimes in my companioning, I struggle a bit because there's just a word that keeps floating and it's persistent and it won't go away. But I know the other person didn't say that word. And so I discern, like, is this just my ego getting in the way, or or is it that might it be valuable to the other person? And I don't know. So anything I reflect back, I'm kind of offering as a gift. Like, I don't know if this is valuable, but it's pestering me, so I'm just going to share what keeps rising. And so, someone else might have just kept using a word disappointment, but I couldn't help but feel a sadness. Sadness kept coming to it. So I offer it. And I'm not attached to it, so it's really about not putting our egos into this, right? It's just I offer it of I don't know why, but the word sadness kept coming to me, and they don't need to the speaker does not need to like validate, oh yeah, no, you got that right or whatever. And I think the last thing I will say about the power of reflection is, like Joanne had said, when you're speaking a message, you're speaking from a different part of your brain than when you're like consciously thinking and so forth. And so when we hear our words come back to us, like the neuroscience shows that there's a different part of our brain when we are hearing something. And so it can be really powerful and insightful in an affirming way or a clarifying way of like, oh, I said that? Oh, no, no, that's not what I meant, right? And so to hear back from others like, well, when I heard you, I heard you say this. Um, and I was, oh, yeah, no, I did say that, but that's not what I meant. Or it can help, like, I share all these random things and it feels so unconnected. But when I hear someone tell back and reflect back what they heard me say, it's like, oh, yeah, now I can see the thread, but I can't do that while I'm speaking. So it's a very profound and powerful experience to, um, if you're in a place to be open to receive reflection, to try it out.
And like
Yeah.
everything else, you don't have to do it. If you're feeling particularly vulnerable and you do not want reflection or feedback, perfectly up to you how you use your time. And once you've gotten a little reflection, sometimes it gets interactive. Like Barbara said, the speaker might say, Oh, I do think I said that, but that isn't what I meant. What I meant was yada, 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 yada. So the speaker might get into more dialogue with themselves using the reflection and feedback. All possible, all optional. You can't do this wrong, really.
Unless I say, oh, I heard you say X, and it made me think of Z, Q, W, X, Y, Z. Not so good.
Now, that would be not good.
It
All
also
right.
it also sounds like there's a particular kind of judgment or redirection that is not what reflecting back is about.
Exactly, Jack. Exactly. It's not about judging them. It's just about hearing them and then telling them what you heard. Any questions at this point before we go into our next practice?
So we thought we'd try it with trios this time. Oh, because another thing you can learn is if more than one of you are companioning and thus reflecting, you don't have to say it all. You can just reflect back the parts that happen to stick with you, trusting that your partner will add whatever stuck with them. And nobody has to be comprehensive or pass a quiz on, what they heard. So we thought we'd do this in trios. And there aren't 9 of us, there are only 8. So I'm going to be in a group. Bill, my idea was you and I, who for some reason aren't getting assigned to the rooms when I set them up. If you and I just volunteer to go to room 3, we'll be a pair instead of a trio. Okay, we have a prompt for this one. Barbara, you want to do this? There, good.
Yeah, so just put the prompt into the chat, which is what do I need to pick up or lay down to be more available to spirit in every moment?
You might need to copy that again into the chat after people have gone in breakout rooms. I'm not sure if it disappears or if they can read it in the breakout room.
And I think what we have down for the timing of this would be, again, for the speaker to speak for 3 minutes. For you, if the speaker is in a place, then ask your companions for reflection, that the companions would have 5 minutes to sort of reflect back. And that might include time for the speaker to be, oh yeah, go a little bit deeper if something else came up. So that's kind of the time frame of about each person taking 8 minutes. So in total, it would be 8 times 3. So
Half an hour,
yeah, 25.
25 minutes.
Yeah.
I think it will get too complicated for me to try to send you broadcast messages about when to switch. So if one of you would be willing to do a little timing, like get a phone out and just give the speaker a cue when 3 minutes is up, and then when there's 5 minutes of reflection, move on to the next speaker. Does that seem like you could do that yourselves instead of me trying to do it from outside?
Mhm.
And I'll flag the groups to close and come back in 25 minutes.
Can you tell us the numbers again? The first, everyone speaks for
3
3
minutes,
minutes.
speak for 3, and then take 5 to get reflection and feedback if you want it from your companions. So
And after
everybody,
8 minutes, change.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Raylene, you get the prompt this time? Good. We aren't gonna make you guess. All right.
Okay, what's next?
You're gonna debrief.
Okay, again, would anyone like to share anything about what happened for them? Or anything that felt worth sharing with the group, or questions that came up for you? Dennis, yeah.
Thing that came up is that one of the things that I generally think I'm pretty good at is reading and understanding what other people are saying, but I also know that I am not perfect at that. So it's, in fact, that's kind of becoming a with one person in particular. We keep having disagreements because we're not actually communicating at the level that I'm used to communicating with people on. So I'm raising it here because in our group, Barbara said something, and I reflected, and I inserted a word that she hadn't used because that's what I was reading in the situation. And the question is, what if I'm not reading it correctly? And so then, how does that dynamic work out? So what if she'd said, "No, you're wrong. I'm not that. That isn't a word that fits." In this case,
Perfect. That's exactly what should have happened. She
okay.
would either have said, yeah, you're spot on, or even though I didn't use that word, it matches, or nah, I don't think that's true.
But sometimes it triggers something else. So it's not bad. It's really up to her.
I was impressed again in the second round by the role and my comfort with the query, even though I felt like the query was harder this time. I appreciated the focus. It pointed me to a space where I could make a quick decision about what I could say.
Hmm.
I was surprised at how much I was able to say in 3 minutes. I thought that's too short a time for, but it wasn't. It wasn't, and that I felt comfortable in sharing. I think I'm getting it. I think I'm understanding what you tried to describe earlier.
Good.
Lovely.
I was thinking about the idea of a witness, just you know, having somebody witness while you are doing your thing, how valuable that is to be connected to other humans, and it's great when they really pay attention. It's it's lovely. So
Mhm.
a little worried about how you do when somebody's really emotional, and
Mhm.
how you reground a person if they really go uh, you know uh, far
Deep.
afield. I've had some experiences with folks who I didn't realize had some mental health challenges, and like I was doing a mediation training in role playing, and the person didn't come out of role play well. Um, so this is a long time ago, but it really stuck with me. Like when people have strong emotions, you have to sort of have some the container has to be strong enough to help them get grounded again.
Mhm.
I agree, Bill, that that's a possibility. I did therapy as a therapist for years, and there was one time in the course of the 20 years I did it where someone really wasn't prepared for doing for me putting my hands on her ankles. And that triggered something in her that I had no way of knowing. of being tied up by the ankles as a kid. And you can't always be prepared for everything. But AVP gives you a lot of tools. The tools of standing up, moving around, looking around, seeing the colors, those kind of tools are really good to have. And in a day like this, I mean, an hour, 2 hours, we're not going to get to all those tools, but you have a bunch of them, I know. And the AVP tools are really useful for grounding people. And the other thing you have in AVP are several other people in the room which if someone really needs to go out and have extended attention, that can be arranged. So,
It makes me
that
think about also the process of selecting or creating your group and finding people that, you know, most people I would have a sense pretty quickly how likely it is that they would have difficulty. So I think that there's some selection that's going to happen, some self-selection when you're preparing a group. But
well, there's also the request that this isn't therapy, that we bring to ourselves a fairly stable whole. We're not on drugs, we're not on alcohol. We're not alcoholic or addicted in serious ways. If we really need therapy, we need something else. And that's part of the requests that we make of people who are signing up for companioning at this level. We're not expecting the companions to have all the skills necessary for a therapist working with someone with trauma.
So it seems to me like that too is a gift that companions bring to this process. That if you've gone deep someplace where it's hard for you to come back out, the companion can be firm and say, that's the end of your 20 minutes. Let's start to transition out. Look around the room. Tell me some things that you're seeing. Helping them get back to present time. And staying calm and relaxed and sure that spirit and the person have resources.
Yeah, so the whole notion that we have to know each other terribly well, or that we have to trust that people coming into this are not in dire need of therapy and that that's what they're here for. But that they're working on their spiritual journey and they're wanting to be discerning how spirit is alive for them. It's a different level of engagement. And there's a lot of things we can learn, a lot of things we can share with each other.
So practice. We could keep practicing. That could be one of the follow-up things we could decide to do here tonight.
So in terms of forming the groups, there's just a list of people who volunteer, and then they
Oh,
how
just a minute,
do you
Raylene.
decide? How do you
Can we just finish with just if there are other questions and then we can
Sure.
go in that direction?
Mhm.
Are there other things that people want to share about their group or questions?
I have a response to Jack's noticing again that the query was helpful as a way of the prompt was useful. I think that has also been part of my maturation process in doing this over years, is that one of the ways I have to work now is when I know I've got a companion session coming up, Thursday at 4 o'clock, not in fact to start proposing myself a query, like not laying out what am I going to talk about this week? What am I working on? But instead, coming willing to open up and see what comes from spirit is don't be mean to yourself if that's hard at first and queries are helpful. But in general, relaxing into waiting in curiosity to see what spirit brings is part of the adventure of this as a practice for me.
Mhm. And for a long time, it was helpful that Nadine's little book had 6 practice queries that were just there.
Cassie, we could dig those up and email them to people here.
I sure could. I have them right here. Nadine's little book. It's Walking
We
in
would
the World
need
as a Friend. And
we would
I
need
can,
your emails in the chat if we were going to if we're going to email you something, because we don't have any registration information for you here.
I think everybody may be, and I'm not sure about Avery, and maybe it's true for you, Avery, as well, but many other people may be listed in the LEYM bulletin.
okay. So Avery, if you'd like to get this, could you put your chat? There you are. She did it all.
On it.
I'm all
Done
about
it.
resources.
You
Yeah.
can get it
Yeah.
online.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah? Is that?
Here, let me just throw this up.
Quaker Collaborative Organizations Resource Walking. Oh, look at that. That's the whole book.
I think so. I don't know what section you're referring to.
I'll tell you the page. No, I'm also very willing to send out to these of us.
There it says full text PDF download on the page Bill just gave us. Just above Nadine's picture is a link to Walking in the World as a Friend, full text.
And it's page 40. Okay, so there's chapter 6 is activities to experiment with living spirit. And it goes into some some instruction to help companioning. It's just 3 pages on spiritual companioning, but the whole book has good things about useful stuff. Isn't that wonderful? It's free. It's there.
Thank
So
you,
go ahead
Bill.
and download it. Thank you, Bill.
I've never heard of that book. So it will be on where? On the LEYM website?
If you open your chat right now, Raylyn,
Oh, okay.
and click on the Bill Waters link there,
Mm-hmm.
it will open up a page.
Mm-hmm.
And then on that page, scroll down just above Nadine's picture, there's a PDF link.
I lost it. Yeah. Well, okay.
So you could
I
just
don't-
open it up right there is what I'm saying, but you
Uh-huh,
have,
I
you have
see.
to. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I do see.
What someone told me today, and I have not known until now, is that if I copy, like copy and paste, if I copy the link that Bill put in the chat, I can then paste it after we're done with the meeting into a Gmail or somewhere, and then I can take my time to go ahead and download it later.
Okay. I'm copying the link. Okay. Thank you.
And then we also have I think it's a 2-page or front and back double-sided handout that just gives a summary of the things we talked about today. What is a good speaker? What is a good listener? What's a good companion? The structure of the group, just that we can email out as well, just so you have a condensed version of the idea, the process, and the structure.
Okay, so now it's 8:42. Are there any other questions or comments just about this? It's if there are people who really would like to be doing some companioning and continuing, there's a couple of possible scenarios. One is that we could set up another evening where we do some more practicing, as Joanne suggested, that we could just practice together and invite other people to come in and do some practice with us if we. Another is we do not have in our pockets enough people to make. Well, if everyone here wanted to make a group, we do. But if that's not what people are ready to try, how do we do this?
Well, one thing I say to people is this: you can put a group together. If you ask yourself whether there are people in your meeting or your life or your friend group that you'd like to try this, you just invite a couple of them and use a couple of these resources and maybe show them this video that Bill's recording for us right now. And you can put a group together yourself and ask us to come visit it with you or demo it
I'm
or
very,
something.
very willing to come and join for a meeting or two. I'm afraid with 3 companion groups, I just can't join your group forever, but I'd be happy to come for an evening or a time. I'm at flexible time.
Mark Hoover is also volunteer. Both he and Cassie have said that they would be willing to help get a group started and could attend, if you were interested in starting a group, could attend the first couple of sessions and get things going. So those are two people willing to help if you're wanting to get it
Cassie,
started, but you feel a little uncomfortable.
Cassie, why don't you put your email in the chat? So if anyone wanted to take you up on that, they know how to find you.
All righty. It's Cassie.Cammon
Mhm.
at gmail.com. Or
And I just posted in the chat a link to that 2-page handout Barbara is talking about. So again, while the Zoom is still active, I click on the link and then it has come up on a tab in my browser and I can go to it later.
So I can copy that too, in addition to the first one I copied, right?
You can. It's easier for
Yeah.
me to just click on it and let it open in my browser, but you can copy
where
it,
do you
sure.
click, Joanne?
On the link, the part that's in blue and
Yeah.
underlined, just
You
click
click.
on it.
Uh-huh.
And then it opens itself
Oh.
in your browser. And you don't have to go read it right now, but you
But
can,
it will just stay there, huh?
yeah.
Mm.
Huh.
This is the positive part of the world that is taking you over, Raylan.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my goodness.
my.
Yeah,
So much.
I feel
Okay.
exactly as baffled as you sound, Ray Lynn. I am. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I get back to you. How do I get back to you?
What
Click it.
I do
Well-
is close things until I find
Down,
people
down on your
Oh, there.
back
Yeah.
scroll. Yeah, just
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of the presentation that we have organized for tonight. If you have anything else you'd like to just talk about before we close, this is the time to do it. And if you have thoughts afterwards, Cassie's a good place to get the rest of us. And we can close with a little bit of silence.
If
Jack
there was
said-
if there was interest, I would attend another session and just do some practice with some of this group, as many people as show up, just to get another dollop of
without having
early
to commit too
experience.
much. Okay, that's fine. That would be lovely. Okay, so, let's see.
Can you say anything about your sense about how widespread this practice is?
I can say that probably a dozen people in Ann Arbor Friends meeting have done it for a month or two. A very few of us are still doing it 5 years later.
Beyond your local meeting, is this something that has spread to other parts of the country, or is this a
Yes.
homegrown thing?
There is an organization called Religious Education Collaborative. What's that called?
QREC.
CREC. I don't know what the first one is.
Quaker Religious.
QREC. Yeah. Quaker. Oh yeah. Quaker Religious Education Consortium. And they have been teaching it and spreading it to religious ed types around the country. I don't know how much of that's picking up, but I also know that the School of the Spirit, which is a ministry that I've been associated with, has adopted this practice. And most of our long programs now include teaching and then practicing this practice over time. So I think there's probably another 30 people around the country doing it there.
We also brought it to Philadelphia yearly meeting spiritual formation program, did a weekend retreat at Pendle
Mhm.
Hill, and also shared it at Friends General Conference during one of their online um, years where they were doing it online. We met, taught it for a week. Um, so it's definitely out there and happening. It's just
But
hard
I
to
think we
keep
do
track.
not know anyone else who's sort of systematically trying to spread it or teach it or, yeah.
But I will say that Friends Peace Teams uses it extensively. That the notion of being in companionship with someone is throughout the world, in the various regions, people are using it regularly. Um, and that
Really?
there again has Nadine
Wow.
at its core, but
Mhm.
um, but it goes way back beyond Nadine. It goes back into the roots of what
Mm.
what it means to be trying to let spirit lead your life. And that, she said today to me, the core value is that we're seeking for spirit's guidance in our lives. And when this takes off with people, that's what they're doing. That's that. And if they lose track of that and just try to be sort of spiritual friends at a more superficial level, it doesn't usually have the same. Uh,
Oh, I have one more tip to pass along to Jack's question about how it's changed over time for me. And that is that um, it when I that I regularly, the query I use most often when I try to settle is this one that we gave you second, which is, what do I need to lay down or pick up right now, Spirit, to be faithful? And see what comes. And what I've learned over time is that, as Nadine told us this at the beginning, and now I really believe it, the answer rarely comes right sized, because if it was right sized, you'd just do it. But they either come too small, like it's like, clean your desk off so you can find stuff when you need it. And you think, well, that can't be spiritual guidance, or call your sister or something, petty. And you say, that's not what I meant. But I really benefit from taking them seriously. If they come in response to that query, I try to take it seriously and get concrete about it and like, what would it hurt me to do that? Okay, or else they are too big, like they are like volunteer to develop and offer a course for the School of the Spirit. And you think, who, me? Are you serious? No, no, no. So
and
again,
she did it. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, with help of my companions over years. But so take them whatever size they come and just let them in. And the point is experiment with it. See what would happen if I took that guidance seriously. Keep a log. We didn't talk about that, but I learned a lot in the first years. I was very systematic about writing down on this date, what was the guidance, what did I do, and what happened. I kept this chart and I learned a lot from looking at the patterns of what came back over and over again because I hadn't done it the first time. So,
Yeah. Mm. One of my companions is so excited by it that when I was announcing this several times over the last month in meeting, and then she'd pop up and say, "You really have an opportunity to do something here. Try this." Look how well it worked. But it's you asked Jack about why we're so sort of excited about it, and it's not that. I mean, I think that uh, all of us really were serious about wanting to deepen the the quality of our connection to spirit in our daily day-to-day life. And that's the key sort of pull. If what we want is somebody to talk to once in a while, there's lots of ways to get that, and maybe better. But so I don't know. If any one of you is interested in getting going with a spiritual companion group and want to talk about it further, Joanne just suggested think about who you might invite to join you, and then maybe I was going to say maybe we could do it next week or something. Do practice relatively soon. I'm assuming. Okay, I will find a couple of times that I could do it and send it out to you all.
Please, not next week, Cassie.
No, I can't do it next week anyway. And the next week is Easter. I don't think I'll do it
And
then.
there's LEYM's happening next weekend. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
So glad you came.
we all could do it on a Thursday night sometime, right?
Mhm.
All right. I'll pick a Thursday in the next month and offer it to you.